When my career began, I would meet people for whom the crisis in their life was the exception, but it wasn't the rule. Around the year 2000, I began to meet more individuals for whom the crisis was not the exception, rather the crisis was the rule. And I began to realize that we were starting to live in an America, as we do now, where a state of crisis is the rule, it's not the exception. It's always something. It's an economic crisis, it's an environmental crisis, it's a crisis of our democracy, it's some disease that's a crisis. It's always something. And I began to realize how many people whose lives were in crisis, at least indirectly, because of bad public policy. The crisis wasn't just that they got diagnosed with an illness. The crisis was that they didn't have health care. The crisis was not that they didn't have a job, but that they had to work 2 or 3 jobs in order to put food on the table. We are now in a situation where the ubiquitous chronic economic despair of millions and millions of people is the new normal. We have 39% of Americans who now say that they regularly skip meals in order to pay their rent. We have 600,000 homeless people. We have 1/3 of America's workers living on less than $15 an hour, and 1/2 of them cannot even find a place to live. We have 70% of Americans who say that they live with chronic economic anxiety. We have the majority of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, and we have a majority of Americans who cannot afford an unexpected $1,000 expenditure. In issue after issue and time after time, what we have is our elected representatives doing more to serve the short-term profit maximization goals of their donors than to serve your safety, your health, and your well-being. We now have Washington itself held hostage. Washington itself turned into a system of legalized bribery. I don't think that the danger for Democrats in 2024 is people voting for Trump. Our danger is people staying home. Our danger is people staying home. People for whom life is far too much of a struggle. Franklin Roosevelt said that we would not have to worry about a fascist takeover in this country as long as democracy delivered on its promises.